Thanks for joining us today. I'm so excited to get started.
Yeah, no, happy to be here.
Yeah, your outfit looks amazing.
Thanks.
But I would say I just have one thing that I think would really make this outfit pop. Yeah, I've got these great Livestrong bands. I've got a blue one and an orange one. And if two isn't enough, then I've actually got a whole set.
Awesome, thanks. I really appreciate it.
Welcome to the 18th episode of FemgineerTV, brought to you by Pivotal Tracker. I'm your host, Poornima Vijayashanker, the founder of Femgineer. In this show, I host innovators, and together we debunk myths and misconceptions related to building products and companies. We often feel like we're too young, inexperienced, or just unsure how to get started building our own product and companies. But the truth is, it doesn't matter how old or young you are. And to prove that, I've invited Jessica Mah, who is the CEO and co-founder of InDinero. Jessica started InDinero right out of college, and she's grown it from zero to millions in revenue. She's been featured in Forbes and on the cover of Inc. magazine. And today, Jessica is going to share not only her journey from engineering to entrepreneurship, but the setbacks that she faced as she was growing InDinero. So thanks for joining us today, Jessica.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to talk about all those things.
Yeah. So you and I met when I had been invited to speak at Berkeley's computer science department back in 2009 to the students. And then shortly after, you decided to strike out after you graduated and start InDinero. But as I recall, InDinero was not your first startup.
Yeah, I'd worked on several businesses in college and in high school. None of them were really real businesses in any sense. Like I didn't have full-time staff. I had maybe low six-figure revenue on some of those projects. But they were a great way for me to dip my feet in the water and see if the entrepreneurship world was meant for me.
Yeah, and what kind of lured you into startup land at such a young age?
I'd say the excitement of building something new I really loved. And I never really imagined that I'd be able to work for someone else. I just don't really like following rules. I could be a little offensive at times, and I didn't think I'd be able to keep a real job. I also worried that out of college, I would work at a Google or a Facebook and just get really comfortable, and I wouldn't be able to leave the posh lifestyle working there. So that was kind of my big fear. So I thought, well, hey, I'm pretty poor out of college. There's nothing to lose. So that's kind of how I decided to do it straight out.
Yeah. And while you were in college, did you worry at all about being too young, or maybe what friends or relatives would say about you going down this startup path?
I worried about it only a little bit. Friends were really supportive. I had some family, like my parents, who said, how about grad school? How about you work at a big company for a few years just to know what it's like? And I think it's good that I had that push and that pressure to not start a company right away, because it really forced me to think, is this something that I'm so excited about, where I would be willing to tell them, no, I'm not going to go that route.
Yeah.
And so it forced me to really think about it a lot more than I would have if they just said, yeah, just go for it. Sounds great.
Yeah. And were there any early learnings in those initial startups that you'd worked on in college that you used for InDinero?
I had a lot of learnings. I worked on a few projects that all they were meant for was for me to make money. Yeah. And I realized that I never did a great job on those projects, and I didn't make much money either. They were really bad.
Yeah. So you mentioned your family was kind of pushing you to grad school, but did you have any mentors who were pushing you to pursue a startup idea?
I didn't have too many mentors who were pushing me in that direction. I think most people were anti-entrepreneurship who I ran into. Yeah. I had a few who were supportive when I told them that was my path already, but none who were really pushing me that way. I'd say that I wasn't great at finding mentors and mentorship in college. I felt like I wasn't really deserving of that yet. And even today, I struggle with that, actually. I've been thinking about how I really should upgrade my mentorship base. And I always think, I'm not really qualified. I don't really deserve the caliber of mentorship that I want.
Why?
It's just been stuck in my head for all these years. I have to shake that out.
Okay.
But it's something that I've been thinking about the past few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of interesting how that never really fades away.
Yeah. So let's talk about InDinero. What inspired you to start it?
So InDinero, in a nutshell,
Yeah.
we're helping businesses with all their accounting and all their taxes. So we replace the accounting team, the entire like full-time staff you'd have, or a bookkeeper, and we take care of all of the back office for a company. And so I started that because in high school I was working on a business and I didn't really know what I was doing. I tried to hire a bookkeeper, an accountant, a tax person, and I was really bad at managing my cash flow. And I just thought, how great would it be if there was a company out there that could just handle all this for me? I don't need to interview anyone. I don't need to piece together my own solution. And it was an idea that I could get around, that I could be passionate about. It wasn't just a money-making idea. It was a idea where I had experienced the pain myself. And so that's why I decided to go this route.
Okay, so you were scratching your own itch, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
And what type of companies are ideal for InDinero?
It's a wide range. We have companies as small as 1 or 2 employees, all the way up to hundreds of employees, tens of millions in sales.
Yeah.
Mostly US-based companies, so it's a pretty wide spectrum.
Yeah. Now, you obviously experienced a number of setbacks. I know the first one you talked about was customers who just wanted to use the product for free and wouldn't upgrade to the paid version, which is a pretty common startup problem. Why do you think that happened to you guys?
So first of all, we had a product that was freemium. It was free, and then if you wanted to pay more, you could pay more. But we always thought, all right, I'll get better. The numbers right now, they're just the baseline, and we'll improve it. But we didn't really set firm targets for like, all right, we need it to go up to this by this date. And if we don't hit like these certain like customer account targets by certain dates, then we shouldn't expand our team, or we'd have to change our fundraising story. And I didn't set those parameters very clearly. I didn't define them at all. We didn't even have clear goals like that. It was really, really fundamental. So that's kind of why we didn't do a very good job, first of all. And second of all, realized that everything was broken and had to decide, all right, we have to lay off our team because we're running out of money.
Yeah, so I remember you mentioned in an article that you were on the brink of bankruptcy. Is this kind of what led to that?
Yeah, well, we were pretty much almost out of cash. Okay. And so I thought, okay, I'm pretty good at fundraising. Yeah. I know how to ask people for money, and I'm not afraid of it. This time I was really afraid of it. Okay. Like, I don't really have good numbers to show for it. Yeah. So I went around trying to get a deal done, and everyone was just saying, hey, like, this is not going to work out for you. Like you don't really have a real business right now. Mm-hmm. And so if we were to raise money, it'd be on bad terms. And that's if we were even able to raise it at all.
Yeah. And what do you mean by bad terms?
Like flat round, down round.
Okay. And meaning that the valuation of your company goes down. Yeah,
exactly. So we just sell a bigger chunk of our company and
lose control over the direction.
Yeah, you'd lose control and lose ownership. It'd be really bad. Yeah. So we thought, all right, even if we raised the money, even if I had like $100 million sitting in my bank account, there is still no path forward. We're still not on the right track.
Okay.
So that's kind of what made me decide, all right, let's just stop fundraising. Let's just start from scratch and rethink the entire thing from the ground up again.
Okay. So what did you do? What were some of the steps that you took?
The first step was cutting out all my burn. Yeah. So.
And how much was your burn at that point?
So it wasn't that much in actual terms. We were burning like $1.5 million a year back then.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Now, like today, it's like, all right, $150,000 is not a whole lot for us anymore. But back then, it was a lot. That was like.
Oh yeah.
That's yeah.
Especially if you're not making.
If you're not
150 at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really, really tough. So we had conversations with each person and we said, hey, you've been great to us, but we just can't afford you anymore. So please like go out, find a new job. We'll help support you. But by the end of the year, you have to move on. And that's really a tough conversation to have with everyone because they'd been there from the beginning.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing we did. So we cut out all of our spend. And then the second thing we did was we started to recalibrate and think, all right, what can we build that will not just be a vitamin, but also be a painkiller? Mm-hmm. And so I went around and I started talking to existing customers and prospective customers again. And the question was, what would you be willing to pay a lot more money for? And why are you only paying us $20 a month, or why are you not paying us anything at all right now?
And those were the specific questions you asked. You didn't sugarcoat it.
No, I was pretty straight and to the point. Yeah. I'm like, look, like you pay me $240 right now. What could I build that would make you pay me like $3,000? Yeah. And I got some really great answers, and I wish I'd asked those questions straight up sooner. Like I've been trying to get the answer to that question, but I never asked it that clearly and bluntly to people. Mm-hmm. And so I got great answers. Like, okay, why don't you guys just do all the work for me? Why is this a DIY product? And all this seems obvious in hindsight. Sure. But it wasn't obvious at the time. So that was the feedback I got, and we acted on it. And we said, okay, today, InDinero is going to be premium only, no more freemium. Mm-hmm. And we're going to charge a few $1,000s a year on the low end. Mm-hmm. So I did some competitive analysis. I called around to see what they would pay if they had hired a bookkeeper and an accountant and everything. Mm-hmm. And based on that, I started calling up all my friends, and I started signing up my friends. I'm like, yes, we're in business again. We got this sort of figured out. And then we started hiring people again. And so we basically pseudo bootstrapped this. Good. Because we didn't have money to. Yeah.
And what was the mental shift that you had to go through to ask those tough questions to your existing customers and to lay off your staff?
So I think it was a slow process, actually. It wasn't like a aha. Okay. Like I think I went through fundraising for like 2 months, realized that it was going to be a drag and not work out. And so I started to lose hope. And so I had some conversations with other entrepreneurs, and I'm like, what should I do? Talk to some investors. My favorite is this guy named Steve Blank. Mm-hmm. He's written some great books about how to find product market fit. And he came to my office one day and he said, Jessica, it's not too late to change everything. Yeah. And I was a little offended at the time. I didn't really know what he fully meant, but then it kind of hit me a few days later, and I realized, we're not on the path. So each of these events kind of added up together. When one night I just had the breaking point, and then I decided, okay, we got to take some swift action now. And I felt this feeling of relief when I knew, okay, we can have a second chance if we wipe the slate clean and tell everyone to find a new job and go back to like bare bone expenses. I felt really good about that. Yeah. So that's how I knew, all right, the next day I got to act on that.
Okay. And why not just give up? Go start another company.
Because it'd be embarrassing. Okay. It'd be horrible. Yeah. Like, Mom, I'm going to work at Yahoo now because I couldn't get a job at Google and Yahoo, and I couldn't run my own company. Like that would just be really, really bad. And no, I couldn't do that. Okay. I had to figure out some way to make it work.
Good. So you've also mentioned that you and your co-founder have been to couples therapy, even though you're not romantically involved. Tell me a little bit more about why you decided to do this and how it's helped.
Well, my co-founder and I are really good friends. Tonight we have our date night, and so we're roommates. So we live together, actually, which is kind of cool. His girlfriend comes over too sometimes, so I have another roommate now. And we were having a lot of trouble communicating. Like, he would say things that would really tick me off and vice versa. And the co-founder relationship is just so critical to get right. So it came down to, like, how do we move forward from here because we kept on struggling with that. And
what do you mean by, like, did you have feelings or things that you wanted to say and you were holding back, or did you let them out? What was kind of the tension?
I would be pretty blunt and straightforward. I would always say, like, this is, like, unacceptable what you did here. And he wouldn't really be able to move past that. And then he would say things that would just offend me, where I'm just like, that makes no sense at all. That's not very good feedback, I thought. And we would just kind of get into this back and forth that was unproductive. So that's when we said, all right, let's just go to Yelp and search marriage counselor. And so we found someone, went to a few sessions, and it really helped us a lot. Yeah. And
how do you think it helped?
Well, there were a lot of things that we realized that we forgot about. Okay. Like, we prioritized our business relationship, but we forgot about our friendship. And we live, like, in the same apartment, but, like, I'm traveling for work a lot. He's traveling for work a lot too. We never see each other. It's pretty ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And I have my own set of friends, and, I'm busy running the company, and he's got his own department. Which means we don't even see each other during the workday anymore, even though we're in the same company. It's pretty silly. So that's how we got to bring back our date nights, bring back some vacations and trips together, and just really rekindle that friendship we had. So that's the first step.
Yeah.
And then all the other learnings on communication were kind of built on top of that.
So it is very much marriage counseling for startup founders.
Yeah, and I thought a marriage counselor would be appropriate.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all but the same thing, right? At the end of the day.
Right.
Like, you care about each other, you want to help each other out. And so I was really happy that we did that, and I'd recommend that to any other co-founder pairing as well.
Yeah, I know we've had the co-founders from Pop-Up Archive, Ann Wooten and Bailey Smith, talk about communication, and they also had somebody come in and mediate a little and give them a framework. So it's great to hear that you've also gone down that path and it's produced good results for you. So we mentioned being on the brink of bankruptcy, and you've turned that around, and now you're generating millions in revenue and have a 200-person team. Has there been a recent setback that you've experienced that you can share with us?
I think the biggest psychological setback right now is the fact that we've had all this like great success coming out of almost running out of money.
Yes.
And so I kind of had this idea that, well, now everything will be great. Now it's just like an exponential up and to the right curve, and everything's going to be perfect and fine and dandy. And ends up, it's actually not that case at all. And so that things just get more challenging, but in a slightly different way.
Okay.
And I really struggled with the transition from doing everything myself to having a team of people who I could rely on and trust. It took me like over a year and a half to kind of move in that direction.
Do you think any of that had to do with being an engineer, knowing how to do a lot of it, and having that as a sense of accomplishment at the end of the day?
Yeah, exactly. You just feel so great about getting that, all your tests to pass and checking that code in and then deploying it. It's that feeling of accomplishment that I no longer get to indulge in. And so how did I get around that? To be frank, I haven't fully gotten over it. Okay. I'm still working on it.
Yeah.
But now I have like a full team. I mean, we have like 200 people, and like I could trust them to do a lot of the day-to-day. So now I kind of started to think, how could I recalibrate my own role? How could I change the way I think about my day-to-day and my work? Mm-hmm. And my solution there is I'm going to have more skip line meetings. So I'm going to figure out what problems other people in the business are facing.
Okay.
Roll it up to the executive team. I want to talk more to customers to figure out their problems. I want to talk to other mentors and advisors more to figure out how they could help us. And so my feelings of gratification come from identifying more problems and making sure that someone is on top of it. So I'm just changing the way that I feel accomplished now.
Yeah. So even though there's still challenges, you feel like you've got a handle on it versus before, where maybe you felt a lot more lost and without any direction of where to go next.
Yeah, exactly. Before, I always felt overworked and I felt like there's just more to do. Mm-hmm. Now I feel like it's up to me to figure out where the problems are and how to roll those problems into solutions. So it's like a completely different mindset.
Yeah.
So that's a big struggle. Among like 50 billion other things, like building out like an executive leadership team. Mm-hmm. That's something I've only recently like learned how to do well. I did it in a very basic sense when we were 30 or 50 employees, but the caliber of talent that I was able to attract when we only had a few dozen people wasn't very high. I mean, it was like pretty good, but like we wouldn't get the really big hitting senior people who I'm now able to attract. And so every stage of the company's growth, I've been able to learn more and more about that, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. And for those senior people that you're trying to attract, are you ever concerned that they're going to think that you're too young or that you maybe aren't inexperienced with this? How have you managed those conversations?
I don't think that comes up too much, at least in a direct way.
Yeah.
It may be like affecting me in that perhaps they have some subconscious bias against wanting to work with me, which I totally understand and accept. But I think when I have more conversations with people and they see how I'm usually a pretty straight shooter and I just tell them how it is and what I'm thinking and I'm just supportive as a CEO, I want to help them succeed, then they're like, all right, this is someone I could imagine working with.
Yeah.
So that's how I'm working around that. But I try not to think too much about that. I don't think it's all that productive.
Yeah. And you mentioned overwork, and I know for a lot of folks out there who are in the midst of building their startup, there's this desire to do everything and more. And we can't always do that because it doesn't lead to good results and we burn out. How have you managed the overwork?
I'd say right now I'm actually in a pretty good place. Like I work really hard during the week, but I take my weekends off.
Good.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
I didn't do that at first. And now I don't think of things like with I don't have a to-do list per se. I have more of a priority list. And I only have 3 top priorities at any given time. Even 3 is a lot. I think most people in the company should have 1 priority. And so I've actually changed all the company goals in the company so that everyone only has 1 objective they're fighting for each quarter. So we have the OKR system that Google and Intel push forward, which is basically monthly and quarterly goal setting. The problem with it is that there are just too many goals. There are too many priorities, and most people can't manage that cognitive load.
Right.
So I've simplified it down. I'm like, each person, you have 1 objective. You have 3 key results, like 3 numerical goals that roll up into that objective, but it's still just 1 goal at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And that really simplifies everything. And for me, I could juggle maybe 2 or 3 priorities at a given time, but no more than that. And so that's my new form of task management. Less tasks, more priorities.
So some people say that you're fearless. Is that true?
No, that's not true.
No?
I have a lot of fear, actually. I go through waves. I'd say once a quarter, I go through some internal crisis of sorts where I like call my coach, I call my therapist, I call my girlfriends. Many of them run their own companies, which is really awesome because we could kind of vent to each other. I would say that when I'm in my confident state, I'm like incredibly confident and I am fearless for like a very limited time.
Sure.
But it's like a gas tank. It kind of wears out and then you got to replenish it.
Yeah.
And I think everyone I know goes through that, no matter how fearless they seem, like in front of a camera or when I see them with business associates, I get a taste of when they're feeling scared too.
Yeah.
It's humbling.
Right.
I don't think they talk about it very much, though.
No, I'm glad. Thank you for being so candid and sharing that with us and the viewers out there.
Yeah.
Now, I know on your weekends, you said that you take time off. Do you have any favorite hobbies or interests?
Yeah. I mean, I'm really into flying airplanes. It's like my go-to thing.
Awesome.
So yeah, this Saturday I'm taking out an airplane for the day. And Sunday, I'm like, I don't know where I'm going to go yet, but I just have a plane and I'll just fly it around.
Nice. And what got you into flying?
I think the idea of just like the freedom of being able to go anywhere whenever I want. And it's also like you have to know like the engine. You have to know like how the plane works and you have to know like all these rules. And it kind of got me back into the engineering mindset of it. Because when you're going from developing and writing software to being like a CEO, you kind of lose sight of those details and you're not thinking on a technical level anymore. Flying airplanes kind of gets me back to that because it wouldn't be productive for me to write code and do that again. So I think that's the real reason why I'm so into it.
Yeah, awesome. Where's kind of the farthest you've flown to?
I've done nonstop here to San Francisco to Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that's fun. Yeah, I dream a lot about this. I mean, last night I had a dream about flying airplanes. It's really bad.
Yeah.
It's too much.
We need more female pilots out there, so maybe that's a second career after InDinero.
Yeah,
maybe. There is an after InDinero. Yeah. So what's next for you guys at InDinero?
So I'd say we're still trying to grow the business. So we want to be able to help out every business with their accounting and taxes. And right now we could handle small businesses and mid-sized growth businesses like 100, 200 employees. But how do we really help these companies that are growing in the 100 plus employee range? They have so many different problems.
Yeah.
How about companies that have offices in other countries? How about companies that are in these other verticals we can't support yet? So we're trying to expand our reach right now.
That's great.
So it's fun, it's exciting, stressful at times, but I'm learning a lot, and I think that's like the most important thing that keeps me going. Like, am I learning? Did I learn a lot this week? If I learned a lot, it was a good week. Yeah. Even if bad things happen, if I learned, that's my measure of a successful week now.
No, I think it's a good measure, and that's going to translate to helping you out in the future as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Wonderful. Well, do you have any final words of wisdom for our viewers out there?
Yeah, I'd say like I love to read, so I wish that more of my entrepreneur friends like set aside time to read. I try to read 2 books a week, so it's over $100 a year.
Yeah,
I really encourage that. Having a mastermind group, I really wish I was part of one earlier. So there's like the Entrepreneurs Organization, there's the CEO Roundtable, Vistage, YPO. There's so many organizations for that, but I wish I got involved in that a lot sooner. So anyone who's trying to work on a company, surround yourself with a diverse space of people, not just tech people. Like
Yeah.
if you're in software field, don't just meet software people. Like find other people running other businesses too to get mentorship from.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Jessica, for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Sure. And thanks to all you viewers out there for tuning in today. And special thanks to our sponsor, Pivotal Tracker, for their help in producing this episode of FemgineerTV. If you've enjoyed this episode, then please share it with your friends, your teammates, and your boss. And subscribe to Femgineer's YouTube channel to receive the next episode. Ciao for now. This episode of FemgineerTV is brought to you by Pivotal Tracker. Build better software faster. Jessica's gonna talk. Let's just do it from the beginning. Sorry, messed up.
Why the hell did I have these? So weird.